FBI/CIA agents of Reddit. What's something that you can tell us without killing us? I worked with the Australian Federal Police with the Spider Squad doing computer stuff for them in regards to pedos and finding trafficking victims. It is the most heartbreaking work, but when you get them, the office looked like NASA after a Mars landing and defined. Of course they have something called Spider Squad in Australia. Geez. I was an analyst. Not an agent, officer. 85% of all classified material is classified because of how it was collected. Not because it is juicy, useful. Yes. You boss and coworkers said that speak about you. I heard just 2 days ago that there is a saying in the government. No one ever got fired for classifying a document. Hence there is huge excess secrecy. This is just a matter of better safe than sorry. Usually it is initially classified by the first party to touch it, usually a lower ranked individual. The easiest thing to do as the lower rank is to pass the buck. It will be up to the upper ranks to lower classification if necessary. Somewhat unrelated, but my great uncle was a FBI agent. Every time we would ask him if he had any interesting stories, but he would say he was sworn to secrecy. After 10 years of hearing this, my sister asked, "Really?" And he responded with, "No. I just don't remember anything interesting happening." My dad worked for GCHQ in the 80s doing voice recognition, and he can't say anything more for a decade more. The way they can recognize you by Siri/Google today was being used in the 80s. Just a bit slower. My high school girlfriend worked for the National Reconnaissance Office after college. At the time, they were responsible for analyzing the nation's spy satellite photos. She told me 2 things. 1. There's a special garbage chute for classified materials. It's in the hallway. When you are new, as a hazing ritual, they tell you you have to shout your badge number down the chute before throwing in any materials. This is hilarious. 2. She wouldn't tell me anything about the resolution quality of the spy photos. Of course. But she did let it slip that because Russian sailors will sunbathe nude on the decks of their submarines in the Black Sea, several women in the office would pin those photos up in their cubicles as beefcake photos. So a few decades ago, US spy photos could resolve Russian penis. Undefined. Did they crunch the numbers to better understand size of the Russian cocks? The min, max, and potential for growth. Mr. President, we must not allow a cockshaft gap. Not an FBI or CIA officer here. But my sister is a district attorney. And over the years she has prosecuted a number of animal cruelty cases. This led to her having an ongoing partnership with the FBI for the last several years. It turns out the FBI started tracking animal abuse cases about 10 to 15 years ago due to the incredibly high correlation between abusing animals when you're young and becoming a serial violent offender as an adult. Netflix getting in on that too about a year ago. Met an old, retired CIA spook at a wedding reception. Spitting image of Colonel Sanders. He was amazing. So I asked him, "I don't want you to tell me anything you can't. But I'd love to know. When Kennedy got killed, what was the talk around the water cooler in the office?" He didn't halt. Or pause to think. Hell. We all thought Johnson did it. Johnson really did want to be president. Plot twist. It wasn't LBJ but rather Lady Bird Johnson that wanted him dead. We are all told never to use sites like this, and social media in general is pretty much a no-go. I'm telling. You'll kill us all. My dad worked for the government. And he told me that anytime he had a meaningful interaction with someone who wasn't American, going over to my friend's house for Lunar New Year, or going on vacation to Canada, he had to report it all. And if he saw anything suspicious, yep. Went through a clearance upgrade and got asked about a couple of people that I know through friends who I didn't include on my paperwork and if I knew their background. It's the nature of how they process the contacts you listed. They pretty much know that you aren't going to include people who don't like you and will tell your dirt. So they go to your old house and knock on doors to find people you didn't list on your ECAP SF86. I said 182. That's a training form and one I just had to fill out last week, so apparently that number was on my mind. The form you fill out with your life history. They say, do you know Derpy Fox? They ask that person questions like, would you trust Derpy Fox to hold a position of trust? They end with something like, do you know anyone else Derpy Fox was friends with when he or she lived here? They then repeat the process with that person to find the guy who will say something like, Derpy Fox? Yeah, I know them. They smoked so much weed in high school I used to get a contact high sitting next to them in bio class. Oh wait. You didn't report that drug use on your SF 182? Clearance denied. The deal is, if you stole a pack of gum when you were 5, this is an exaggeration. It wouldn't be reportable based on the time frame. Just report it. As soon as they uncover something you didn't report, your integrity comes into question and you probably won't get that clearance. Source: went into the Marines at age 19 and have worked for the DoD in some capacity ever since, 23 years and counting. If you go through the FBI interview process, it takes a while. Chances are you're going to have to spend some time working on crimes against children, which is really tough and most people don't want to do it. Yeah, I heard a story here on Reddit about how somebody was involved in a case against a predator, and he had to go through every image on his hard drive to flag anything that was child peep. That case drove him out of the industry. I can't even imagine. I read an article once about how the government has people whose job it is to look at disturbing videos/images from the internet and seized hard drives. Mainly child peep, but also things like executions, to find clues to the location, identity of the people involved, etc. It's an important job, but the burnout rate is astronomical. A lot of them end up with PTSD, addiction issues, and other problems. My aunt has been an FBI agent for 25 years. The only thing I know about her job is that she's an office administrator. But her information went public somehow when she was part of the team that investigated the Mandalay Bay shooting in Las Vegas. Someone found the name and address of most of the agents that worked that scene and put it up online. Not sure why. She also took me and my family on a tour of the Las Vegas FBI headquarters about 15 years ago. One thing interesting that I remember about the building is that all the doors were floor-to-ceiling 9-foot doors. Thought that was weird. All the doors were floor-to-ceiling 9-foot doors. Existence of reptiloidians confirmed. There is a book called Moscow Rules. It was written by 2 CIA people. All about, well, disguise. The CIA had all these agents in Russia. But the Russians were insane about following literally every single American in Russia, 24/7. Looking for spies. So a huge part of their job was trying to shake off the KGB. They had crazy quick change disguises. All sorts of stuff. The movie Argo was based on one of the writers somewhat. I negotiated huge deals with the Russian government. I was tailed 24/7. One time I didn't like the room the hotel gave me. I knew it faced the noisy side BC. I stayed there all the time, and instead of just giving me a new room, it was a 90-minute wait while they bugged a new room for me. Twice I had bizarro run-ins with very pushy, very hot women who allegedly wanted to feep me so bad. Even if I was straight. Hot in Russia is a mix between a Bratz doll and a hooker. So no thanks. Edit spelling. Same in China. You only go with blank phones, and every now and then your phone will do this little glitch as if it's being accessed. An ex-company man once told me Get Smart was more accurate than James Bond. Pretty sure being a famous spy is a sign things aren't going well. I watched Daniel Craig Bond films recently, and that's what stood out to me. Just how many people, especially terrorists, knew Bond by name and appearance. Doesn't speak well for the OO program. worked with a woman who was former NSA. We would always beg her to tell us speep. But she never did. The one thing she did say, though, was that during training they show them a video of a bunch of things they've found out about and stopped. She said she hardly slept for 2 weeks after watching that. I have a relative that retired from the NSA a few years ago. She has talked about a few things in generalities. Nothing specific. Among them, you will see things that entirely change your view of the world. People go in there all the time with lofty goals of changing things, and within months those goals are mostly gone. Still, if you want to change things, you work for the agency. If you just want to make money, you work for a contractor. No one cares what contractors have to say. Most people that stay long enough will do a tour in counterterrorism. Many people transfer out after a few months. And the average stay is 2 years because of the visuals. Those who stick around for a long time often change for the worse. And many struggle with mental illnesses, become alcoholics, get divorced, and generally lead miserable lives with their work their only reason for continuing. Alcoholism in general is rife in the agency. When you cannot speak to anyone outside the agency about your work, it becomes nearly impossible to confide in anyone close to you. Even if you have close work friends or family, you have to be careful what you say because not everyone is read into every program. 2 people can sit next to each other in the same office, working on the same subject for months, and never talk about it with each other even though they're close friends outside the agency. So people turn to the bottle. Her husband worked for a different government agency and also had a top secret SCI clearance. But she couldn't talk about her work with him, nor could he with her. But his didn't involve the intelligence community. The agency employs psychiatrists who are cleared to be read into almost any program. Going to them, though, is often seen as a mark of shame among other agency employees. So they are not used nearly as often as they should be. She told me most of these things while trying to recruit me. She believed that I should go in knowing what to expect. I eventually declined to apply. That is really a shame that the stigma is still there for psychological help. Are we still too proud to acknowledge that seeing the kind of speep they do has a serious toll on their mental health? Leave a like and a comment if you liked the video. Check out more Reddit related video. I am posting them daily. Subscribe to see more Reddit content.